So, when the Oscar Award winner of the Minecraft movie released, McDonald's decided to do promotion with their adult Happy Meals. Yeah, okay. So the meal came with Minecraftified figures of the iconic McDonald's mascots, like the Hamburglar, Birdie the Early Bird, Grimace, and of course the big clown in charge, Grimace's close personal friend, Donald Trump.
How do you do it? What's your secret? You're a man of few words. I like that.
But wait, where's Ronald McDonald? That's weird, right? Why wouldn't McDonald's main mascot be included in a promotion featuring their other mascots? But then you realize, Ronald hasn't been McDonald's main mascot for a while. And by a while, geez, maybe it's been like a decade since I last saw him? I mean, I wouldn't know, of course. It's not like I go to McDonald's that frequently, and I definitely didn't go recently to get their fried apple pie. You know what's crazy? McDonald's doesn't really have a mascot anymore. This is somewhat odd in the world of fast food. Burger King has the King, Wendy's has Wendy.
Who is Bello Mandy?
Jack in the Box has Jack, which I think is a clown. Whatever he is, he can force feed me a burger anytime. And of course, KFC has Colonel Sanders. So I ask, where has Ronald McDonald gone?
Here comes Grimace. You got some burgers I can steal, huh?
Lois, the Hamburglar steals hamburgers. Grimace is Ronald McDonald's friend.
Oh, come on. You love the dirty talking Grimace. What the hell is this?
So McDonald's opened on May 15th, 1940, as a single burger joint that quickly took off, thanks to what at the time McDonald's advertised as their speedy service system in 1948, which today is commonly used by restaurants we see as fast food locations. To help advertise the system and the brand itself, McDonald's introduced their first mascot, Speedy, which is certainly a mascot of its time. He's supposed to be a chef with a burger for a head, much like the later mascot Mayor McCheese. Though notably his burger is facing at a different angle, which is slightly less horrifying. Speedy lasted from 1962 to 1967, when he was replaced with the clown in question. So I'm going to show you a clip from one of McDonald's first advertisement spots with Ronald, and I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. The 60s was a very different time. Okay, you ready? What the hell is that? So, this first incarnation of Ronald, you know what? Maybe he shouldn't be found. Listen, I can understand their thought process combining a clown with fast food, and they even hired a real-life clown. Willard Scott, who played Bozo the Clown, who's probably like the 5th most famous clown ever. Anyways, they did change the design to basically be one-to-one with the Ronald we know today. He's still a little horrifying up close, but from a safe distance, he can work as a friendly mascot. And work he did. At the start of the 70s, you had McDonald Land, a very famous ad campaign that featured Ronald and all his mascot friends in, well, a McDonald Land. These are where most of the other mascots that have since retired or are still being used today made their debut. But what's important is that you wouldn't see the other mascots without Ronald. He was still at the center of McDonald's branding. McDonald Land was phased out. You may have heard it was due to a plagiarism lawsuit from H.R. Pufnstuf, a famous and very terrifying looking kids show from the same time. And while legally McDonald's had to pay the creators of the show, the only effect it likely had in the campaign was phasing out the mascots that were in the center of the case, notably Mayor McCheese. This is where you saw the group of mascots of Ronald, Grimace, the Hamburglar, and Birdie solidify as McDonald's core brand. So how come Ronald stood the test of time until he didn't? What Ronald had that the other McDonald's mascots, and even mascots for other brands didn't have, was that he was just a clown. When portraying many cartoon mascots, the characters would have to appear as either a cartoon or as a mascot suit in commercials and ads featuring real people. But since Ronald is played by a real actor, you can easily slot him into commercials interacting with kids. And you didn't even have to suspend your disbelief, because a clown is the one job where you're expected to interact with kids. It's really genius, because compared to the King, would you want this thing interacting with your children? Yeah, I didn't think so. Ronald was able to last from the 60s to the 2010s with minimal changes. By all accounts, that makes for a mascot successful enough to last McDonald's as long as they wanted. So when did they decide he wasn't worth it anymore? It was like McDonald's just came out one random day to officially announce Ronald's retirement. However, it was a slow and gradual phasing out of the character. If you are watching Happy Meal commercials around the 2010s, you would have noticed that Ronald was eventually replaced by these things. These are called Happy, and I'm not sure if that's meant to be singular or plural, considering that Happy Meal commercials would typically feature an army of them. Their debut in the US commercials was around 2014. So you may think, oh, okay, so these are supposed to be Minion knockoffs, and Yeah, they likely were. The McDonald's wiki said they were directly created by Illumination. This is sorta kinda true. They were actually created by the French studio MacGuff, who helped animate Illumination movies like Despicable Me until they were directly absorbed into the studio. So I guess being created by Illumination is technically true. I mean, who gives a damn? These things suck. Listen, I was a kid at the time these things were introduced, and even I was weirded out. Not only can these things not work in live action, they barely hold up animated. Why are they 90% mouth? Why is that the most detailed part of them? People still believe these things are currently the McDonald's mascots. They're not. They were phased out quite a while ago. Now McDonald's doesn't really have a mascot. Kinda is complicated. But now that you have the context of this mystery, let's dive into some common fears as to why McDonald's abandoned their clown. Okay, I'm gonna start out with the least likely theories because I can't just get at the answer now. Like, damn, let me build my case. So I don't know if people remember this, but in 2016 there was a viral hoax that killer clowns were hiding in the forest across the United States. There was really no way of explaining what happened besides some mass hysteria and people on the internet trolling, because the only people who are actually scared by this were your local Facebook conspiracy mom and children like me at the time. You better believe in 2016 I was looking out my school's window, which just so happened to be near a forested area, waiting to see if the clowns ever came out. And those pussy-ass clowns never did. So of course the only brand this incident would have affected was McDonald's, and they did respond to this at the time. Quote, McDonald's Corp said Tuesday that it is being thoughtful in respect to Ronald McDonald's participation in community events as a result of the current climate around clown sightings in communities. There are no original sentences left. Already you may have figured out why this theory is bogus. As I said previously, Ronald was replaced by Happy in the Happy Meal commercials in 2014, 2 years before this incident. If you look back at that statement, quote, thoughtful in respect to Ronald McDonald's participation in community events. They didn't mention his commercials because there were no commercials featuring Ronald at the time. I'll touch back on what community events means because that's actually a clue to Ronald's fate. Have you been keeping note of the clues? Did you write them down in your handy dandy notebook? There's a quiz on this later, you better not piss me off.
For $1, I could buy anything off the dollar menu at McDonald's, and this would definitely make me happy because I love to eat.
All right, me too, girl. I love to eat too.
In 2014, a man named Morgan Spurlock dared to ask the question, if I only ate food from McDonald's, would I wind up in a hospital? The answer shocked Americans everywhere as I found out that yes, eating too much fast food isn't good for you. What? Listen, Supersize Me has a really complicated legacy that's not helped by the guy who started it, but frankly, I'm only interested in talking about his connection to Ronald. This documentary was released at a time when middle-class America was in a health and diet craze brought on by the rising rates of obesity in the country, particularly childhood obesity. From the CDC, quote, since 1960, the prevalence of adult obesity in the United States has nearly tripled, from 13% in 1960 to 1962 to 36% during 2009 to 2010. Since 1970, the prevalence of obesity has more than tripled among children, from 5% in 1971 to 1974 to 17% in 2009 to 2010. So it wasn't that people didn't know that McDonald's was unhealthy, but more so that people didn't know that the rates of obesity in children was drastically increasing. And so if you're McDonald's, who in the 2000s was still prominently advertising their food to children, with a clown mascot who, as I said, is designed to be in commercials interacting with children, parents are going to start raising eyebrows at your brand. With incentives like toys and Happy Meals, kids would start begging their parents for McDonald's. And while like everything involving children, it's really the parents' responsibility to not give them unhealthy food, they found it was easier to just target McDonald's advertising. And listen, I'm not defending McDonald's either. They infamously advertised their food as being healthy specifically during this time, which basically amounted to, hey guys, we have salads.
Crispy chicken, fresh lettuce, 3 cheeses, fresh rice.
Anyways, this theory posits that McDonald's got rid of Ronald to avoid having him associated with the negative backlash they were getting for promoting unhealthy eating to children. Now, why would McDonald's care that their mascot is getting associated with what their brand is doing? A mascot's job is to promote the brand, so naturally they're going to be associated with their brand. Well, that brings us to...
Bye, Dad. Don't wait up.
Whoa, wait a minute, Lisa, come back here. You're not going out with all that makeup on.
But, Dad...
Upstairs. You're a McDonald. Not a
So this theory is kind of a part 2 on the one we just discussed. As I said, during the 2000s, the last decade, Ronald was really used in McDonald's advertising campaigns. McDonald's as a brand was starting to get negative connotation for advertising unhealthy food to kids. Ronald being the mascot for the company meant if the brand's getting negative attention, he's at the center of it, even more so than the higher-ups who are actually responsible. Unless a brand CEO is super well known, typically the brand itself is what's under fire when a company is undergoing a period of bad publicity. But did McDonald's really retire Ronald as an effort to give people a new impression of the brand? Well, what's important to realize is that Ronald is not only the mascot for McDonald's. Ronald McDonald House is a non-profit organization that provides housing and other accommodations for families with hospitalized children. And if the name didn't give it away, this organization's largest benefactor is McDonald's. So let's think through this. McDonald's partners with an organization which helps the families of children in hospitals. McDonald's was also getting criticism for promoting unhealthy eating to children during a time when childhood obesity was on the rise. Suffice to say, it was a bad look, and this charity's name is directly associated with Ronald McDonald, who was the figurehead of the McDonald's brand. So the theory is that during the late aughts, McDonald's had to decide whether to remove Ronald from their brand or from the nonprofit. Removing Ronald from the charity would have been tricky because they don't own the organization, and you would have also forced the nonprofit to come up with an entirely different brand and actually redesign their houses as some feature Ronald McDonald himself. So if their effort was to avoid even more bad publicity, they needed to remove Ronald from their brand, make a new child-friendly mascot for their kids' meals, and remove any trace of Ronald from their restaurants. You also have this statement made in 2014 by the CEO of McDonald's at the time, the aptly named Donald Thompson. I say, when was the last time you saw Ronald eating food marketed to your children? You have not seen him do that. This was a big thing. People attack Ronald McDonald. He is the clown. He represents our charity. So by 2013, which was around the time McDonald's phased out Ronald from the commercials, they were already trying to push him into being associated with the nonprofit. Okay, compared to the killer clown theory, this one sounds a lot more plausible, and maybe it was a factor in their decision to remove Ronald, but I can't fully get behind it. If the controversy surrounding McDonald's during the 2000s actually had enough of an impact for them to fundamentally change their branding, which reminder they have used since the 60s, then why are they still advertising to kids? You'd think McDonald's would have phased out their kids' meals along with Ronald if it was really that big of a deal. I mean, look, today you can still order a Happy Meal with insert Happy Meal toy here. Wow, that's so cool or sucks. I mean, yeah, their Happy Meals have definitely taken a backseat in recent years, especially since they introduced their adult Happy Meals. Oh.
There. At 11:45, they take the grease traps out the back door. You sneak right in and take all the hamburgers you want. Rubble, rubble. Hey, man, I thought you just wanted to score some hamburgers. These kids don't have to die, man. Rubble. Rubble. Okay, take it easy. Be cool. I don't want any rubble.
Back in the day, you could really advertise anything to children. I mean, they literally had children's cigarettes. They did not care. During the 80s and 90s, some of the most popular kids programming were just vehicles for selling toys. But today, advertising to children has become a logistical nightmare. Right now, you're probably watching this on YouTube. And if you've been around the platform long enough, you may have remembered the whole COPPA, the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act scandal in 2019. YouTube was fined $170 million by the FTC for collecting personal information from minors without parental consent. This is why today, before publishing a YouTube video, you have to check whether the content is made for kids or not, which determines what ads can and cannot play during your video. Now, McDonald's probably wouldn't have to worry about COPPA unless their Happy Meal toys contain spyware, but this reaffirms that advertising to children is a completely different minefield compared to 20 or 30 years ago. Obviously, McDonald's still heavily advertised to children, but their means in doing so has changed. I mentioned Happy, but around when Happy appeared, McDonald's introduced their Funky Farm advertising campaign, which specifically promoted the healthy aspects of the kids' meals, and by healthy, I mean the apple slices and milk. Thank God I had those 5 apple slices, or else that Big Mac would have gone right to my thighs. Obviously, no one was buying that, and the campaign didn't last very long. So how is McDonald's advertising their kids' meals today? Well, now they focus entirely on the branding of the toys they're promoting rather than their own brand. That also means a huge emphasis on the actual meal itself, which to me is a placate for parents who complain about them advertising unhealthy eating. They're basically now operating as a toy company who just so happens to also sell food. What's also interesting is that the commercials are showing less kids actually eating their meals or just not showing kids at all. To that it's back to Ronald. While he was a seamless mascot in McDonald's commercials back then, as you can easily have him interact with kids, today it would be the opposite. Ronald wanted these commercials to be so out of place because these aren't McDonald's commercials, these are toy commercials. This could also explain the decision to replace Ronald with Happy for a time, because while Happy has many flaws, one advantage is that they are animated. So while they would look out of place in commercials with real kids, they would easily fit into commercials that are promoting a new animated movie or show. Again, it shows that McDonald's was really trying to step away from showing kids kids eating or enjoying their products, and rather have these animated characters eat their food or just not mention their food, period. And while we'll get to the adult Happy Meals themselves, even the kids' Happy Meals are trying to advertise to specifically nostalgic adults for the McDonald's brand. You had the Halloween Boo Buckets a couple of years ago, which were modeled after the original ones from the 80s, and the Changeables, which are basically like McDonald's Transformers that were also introduced in the 80s that returned in 2026. And while I'm sure kids enjoyed these toys as well, I also saw adults on social media get these Happy Meals for the nostalgia of it. And we of course now have the adult Happy Meals. The first one of these was actually introduced in 2004 during the whole McDonald's obesity scandal and featured a salad, a bottle of water, and a stepometer. Suffice to say, the next time they did an adult Happy Meal was in 2022 and just featured an adult-sized portion of the regular Happy Meal. And you know what's consistent between a lot of these promotions? They feature figures of the original McDonald's mascot characters. I mentioned the Minecraft meal, that came along with a Minecraft Happy Meal, but you can only get figures of the McDonald's mascots if you get the adult version. Today, McDonald's only uses their mascots when it comes to promotions specifically targeting adults nostalgic for these characters. You probably already heard about the whole viral Grimace Shake trend, but that's another example. Sure, kids can enjoy the Grimace Shake as much as adults, but who is this campaign really targeting? Kids today do not know who Grimace is, and it's not only because he's been removed from the ads. Ronald and all of his friends have been removed from the locations themselves. Look at what a McDonald's location looked like in the 2000s, and now look at a McDonald's now. The colors have literally been sucked out of them. The play places have been stripped out. The Ronald that sat on the bench greeting you before you entered has left. And why? It's because McDonald's doesn't want to be seen as a location for kids. Other fast food franchises have kids meals, but they never had their branding and infrastructure so intertwined with children's entertainment. And McDonald's back then had a lot more in common with Chuck E. Cheese than a Wendy's. And I'm not saying this shift is necessarily a bad thing. It's just the reality of the situation. I'm sure the whole childhood obesity scandal helped push them towards this path, but if you really zoom out, a lot of brands originally focused on children's entertainment has either gone bankrupt or has fundamentally changed to something else that caters more so to families or adults. Listen, I'm not an economist or a sociologist, so I can't really explain why this is happening. Honestly, for that conversation, you really need to discuss why children-friendly spaces are disappearing both in the real world and online, and how that's fundamentally detrimental to children's development because now the kids are going to Sephora to throw a foundation at the teenage employees. But that's not what this video is about. I'm supposed to tell you where Ronald McDonald is. In 2025, McDonald's released another adult Happy Meal, and this one was based on the McDonald's Land advertising campaign that I discussed earlier in this video. And in the commercial for this meal, there he is. Ronald once again advertising a meal for McDonald's. You can even get him as one of the collectible tins that came with each meal. So the answer is technically that Ronald McDonald never disappeared, but you know that's not really what I meant. Ronald did disappear from McDonald's branding as a whole, along with his other mascot friends. They have been appearing recently, but only when it comes to meals that are specifically advertised towards adults who are nostalgic for these characters. What I believe is that the childhood obesity scandal and the nonprofit likely played a factor in the decision to phase out Ronald, but the biggest reason was that McDonald's wanted to move away from being associated so heavily with children's entertainment. The pros I gave as Ronald as a mascot was how seamlessly you can integrate him in children's spaces. So if you're not pursuing family or adults as your main audience, yeah, you need to get rid of the clown. I think Ronald was just a very unique case because other fast food mascots aren't as heavily associated with kids. The Colonel is able to appear in commercials with families. Jack in the Box is almost only seen with adults, but Ronald being a clown just doesn't work if he's not either with kids or in a made-up fantasy land. Like seeing Ronald in a room full of adults eating McDonald's would be weird. I really don't see Ronald coming back, and I guess that's not a bad thing. I loved Happy Meals as a kid, but I consider saying that, yeah, you probably shouldn't advertise this food to children so heavily. I mean, it should be the parents' responsibility on what their kids eat, but whatever. I'm really just worried that McDonald's is gonna try to revive Ronald as a mascot for adults, as that would go so poorly, like I can't even imagine. They should have him make out with the Burger King. What the fuck was that? Guys, who wrote that? Oh my god. Just end the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like content like this, make sure to like and subscribe and ring that bell. Will I make another fast food mysteries? I don't know. I literally can't think of another fast food mystery. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. If you guys like it, then I don't know. Okay, that's all for now. Yeah.
Don't forget to smile.
So let me go over this again. You want a Big Mac, a large bulk, a 6-piece bacon nugget, and 3 chocolate built bookies.
Oh, bloods. That's what I want. That's it.